Welcome back to Grief Inspired. My name is Catherine McNulty, and I bring light to the darkness of grief. So today we're talking about faith in grief. And so many of us were raised with some of the world's religions. And when we undergo the loss of someone very, very close to us, it can shake our faith and it can create a lot of questions. For me, there was what I now call a spiritual crisis, because everything that we were taught, everything that we thought we believed can get shaken. And so I want to address it, and I want to talk about it. And it's something that I haven't talked about up until now, because it's a touchy subject for a lot of people. People don't like to talk about it. But one of my missions here at Grief Inspired is to get the conversation going. And so if I just share with you some of what I've heard, some of my own experience, then it's more opinion than it is fact. So today I brought with me my very special cross that my brother-in-law made for me. It means a lot to me. It's out of glass, so he did some glass blowing at some point. And it symbolizes my faith in God. And so I grew up Catholic. I talk with people of all faiths during my grief counseling. I love having conversations about other people's faith as well. And grief will do a number on us, particularly for those of us who grew up Catholic. It can be troublesome. And so I also brought, this is the urn that has my son's ashes in the bottom, my little guy, baby Jackson. So I brought him with us today. I also have an angel that one of my friends gave to me that I keep close because I love what it symbolizes. I love the presence and feeling like there are angels and there is a support system around us. But for many people, religion and our faith becomes very difficult when we grieve. It's hard to believe that a loving God would let the people that we love be taken from us. And when the situation is losing a child, losing a spouse to cancer, losing someone too soon, or even losing someone that we didn't anticipate losing at any time, it can shake our faith. And it can make us wonder, do we believe what we believe? I've had some folks say that they've been told that if they had more faith, that they wouldn't grieve and they wouldn't be unhappy if they had faith in God, which is so mean and so unfair for the people who are suffering, people who are questioning, people who are wondering, does God even love them? Is there a God? Makes you question. I have had other people say, let's see, what else? That they should just go back to the church if they had been away from the church. Or I've had people tell me that because they left the church, that's why they lost the person that they love. And I have some people who even say, if I had lived a good life, if I had been a better person, I would not have lost my loved one. And when I hear these things, it hurts my heart, because I just don't think that that's true. And I think it's a sad place to be in, that only causes us more pain. And I don't know why supposed faith-bearing people would say that to anyone else. It blows my mind. It really does. So I can speak from my own experience. I grew up Catholic, and when my baby died, I up until the day it was about to happen, I did not believe that he was going to die. Even though the doctors told me that it could. And when he did die, my faith was very, very strongly shaken. But for me, I wanted to understand. And so I set out for myself on a mission to try to find it. I've got bookshelves full of books searching for the meaning. I read one book that, if you haven't read, is Why Bad Things Happen to Good People, right? That's the story of a rabbi who was supporting people through grief until he lost his daughter. I believe it was his daughter. And the way he approached his faith, the way he approached grief, the way he approached the people who came to him became very, very different. His relationship with God became different because of his grief. And for me, the same thing happened. I went to the church and we had a new priest who was fresh out of the seminary. And I thought to myself, wow, this guy, he is going to tell me, he's going to give me all the answers that I need. And I was a hospitality minister. I would welcome people into the church. That's what I had done. And after I lost my baby, I couldn't do that anymore. And I could barely even go to church. And there were weeks where I didn't go to church, and the Catholic way is to go to church every week. So I felt bad that I couldn't go, that I'd stopped going, or that I went sporadically. And the priest noticed that I was there sort of sporadically and asked, and sort of mentioned like, hey, I haven't seen you. And I kind of shook my head, and he was, it was before Mass was about to start, so we didn't have to talk about it. But I managed to work up the courage to send him a very long email explaining what had happened, because he didn't know about my son dying, and how my faith was really shaken, and how going to church physically made me cry. Like I just cried through the whole thing. And I got to the point where I was like, well, why am I doing this to myself? Like, this is just, it became like torturous. Like it was torture to go to church. So I said, okay, well, I'm not going to do that to myself. I'm going to take some time. And I did. And I went to him and I said, and I sent him a big long letter and said, please help me understand. And I need a cup of coffee for this one. And his response was, God works in mysterious ways. I got a 5-word response in an email. I was devastated. I went to the church elders, the little old ladies who supposedly have all this faith, and asked them for answers. Why does this happen? Why does God let babies die? Why does cancer exist? Why do people suddenly die in car accidents? Why is there murder in this world? How can this be? And the little old ladies didn't have anything either. And I had finally got up the nerve and the gumption, so to speak, to go and speak with a different priest in the church. This was, maybe a year later. There were different priests there. There was a man who was running the church at the time, the pastor. And I had put an appointment on his calendar. I worked up to go and talk to him. And I was very fearful because I was taught that you don't question faith. You don't question what the Catholic Church says. You don't question what you're supposed to believe. And here's are the supposed tos, right? I was tied into the supposed tos. And the day before I was about to see him, I got a phone call. They were canceling the appointment because he decided to leave the church, that he was no longer going to be a priest. And that was impactful for my journey. And so I didn't know what to do. I had a friend who, she took my Bible and she marked it all up and gave me, passages to read to help me I read lots of different books when I was in the hospital with Mason. I talked to the chaplain and just, so I'm like, well, maybe I need to talk to somebody who's, not necessarily Catholic. Maybe it's a different Christian faith. Maybe they will have answers for me. I was really looking everywhere and anywhere and to try to find the answers that I needed because I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And I questioned a lot. And I felt guilty about questioning. But what I learned was that the questioning in your faith is what's important. Questioning all of it, what you believe and why you believe it, and why these things happen, that I want to encourage you to lean into the inquiry, lean into the questions. And I have a quote that I keep here on my wall that says, the questions to life's answers are inside you. And I learned that I was looking externally for all of my answers to my faith, to my religion, to what I should do, what spiritually I wanted to believe or should believe or needed to believe or whatever. But when I started to look within and I let the answers land on my heart and I just stopped and I prayed and I listened, I realized that I was never going to get all the answers that I wanted. But I feel like I got the answers that I needed by just listening. And I found this passage in John chapter 4. He says, "Dear friends, let us practice loving each other, for love comes from God, and those who are loving and kind show that they are the children of God and that they are getting to know him better." And I love this passage because faith is about getting to know God better. Faith is about inquiry. Faith is about questioning. Faith is about exploration. And no one has all the answers. And when we look externally for those answers, we're not going to find them. And if we do, then we might believe answers that go against what we internally, inherently trust in our gut. And so there are religions and there are faith. For me, I uncoupled the two. That my faith in God doesn't necessarily mean it's all about Catholicism, that there's other things that I can be open to let God into my life wherever it happens to come. And so I've really enjoyed learning about other religions, learning about other faiths, other beliefs, and seeing what works for me. And this passage, love comes from God. And so what was my result of my spiritual crises? I think it's that I learned that the reason why we're here, that the bad things happen and there isn't anything that we can do about it, and we lose the people that we love, and babies die, and people get cancer, and our lives are ripped apart. But that we are all connected, and that love comes from God, and that the love that we have for each other is what's important, and that we're here to connect. We are here to support and help each other through our grief, through the good times, through the bad times. And that as long as we're doing it together, then I think we're doing it right. And so one of my taglines is "Do not grieve alone," because I don't think that we're supposed to grieve alone. And that's why I do what I do, is because I don't want you to have to grieve alone. And no one should. Not in life's darkest, hardest days. We shouldn't have to do it alone. And if you read the Bible, if you're a reader of the Bible, I think sometimes, at funerals, and they're focused so much on death. And I wish there was more focus on, if we believe in the revelation, if you believe in the revelation, if I believe in the revelation, the way I was brought up to believe, which I do, Then there's Revelations 21:4, which is one of my most favorite and most hopeful quotes, that says, I heard a loud shout from the throne saying, look, the home of God is now among men, and he will live with them, and they will be his people. Yes, God himself will be among them. He will wipe away all tears from their eyes, and there should be no more death, nor sorrow, nor crying, nor pain. All of that has gone forever. It's that hope that gets me up in the morning. It's that hope and belief that drives everything that I do. And will I be with my little guy again? Yes, I believe that. And I believe that we all believe whatever it is that we believe, but we should question it. We should look at it. We should do the inquiry and not blindly follow what other people tell us to do. You know, my last video, a couple videos ago, your grief is your own. This is your grief, your pain, your heartache. Why would you let someone else dictate what you're supposed to think or feel or do? So if you are in spiritual crises yourself, seek out answers and keep the faith and keep believing that the answers will come. Pray, listen, be still, be quiet, and be patient. And I promise you that you will find at least some of the answers that you seek. So let me know what's going on with you. Let me know what you think about as it relates to all of this. And if it helps you, let me know that. And keep up the inquiry. That's all I can say, is keep it up and know and believe that it's about being connected. It's about loving each other. It's about helping each other out. And it's about the belief, for me, it's about the belief in the promise that one day again, I will see my son, Jackson, and we will be happy in the kingdom, as they say. And I hang on to that. I hang on to that hard because I think it's important and it keeps me going. So you hang on to what keeps you going. Keep searching for the answers and you will find them.